I'm Sergeant Maya Rodriguez, 28, and I never imagined my own parents would betray me like this. It was a tense family dinner in Colorado Springs when their words struck like incoming fire. "You are not part of this family anymore. Don't come back." My spine straightened instinctively as I stared them down, my fork held steady despite the shock. My mother's eyes were ice cold, my father's face blank as a stone wall, and my brother just sat there with that smug expression I'd grown to hate. Before I could execute any response, they stood in formation, pointed to the door, and I moved out into the night with military precision. The lock clicked behind me like a rifle bolt, the key in my hand suddenly useless as a broken weapon. I hammered on that door, shouting orders they'd never follow, but silence was their only response. My entire world went foobar in that instant, discharged from my own home with no explanation. I secured quarters at a cheap motel, my tactical mind racing to analyze why they'd launched this attack. Was it because I'd refused to fall in line with the family business, or because I dared to pursue my mission of writing screenplays? A week later, my phone buzzed with urgent intel from their lawyer. "We have a problem. Call immediately." My gut clenched like it did before a dangerous op. 1 week ago, they'd executed a cold dismissal and declared me Kia to the family. And now, through their legal officer, they were requesting immediate backup. I stared at those words on my screen and let out a combat-hardened laugh. Have you ever taken friendly fire from the people you trusted to have your six? Drop your story in the comments. I'd like to hear from my fellow warriors. Growing up in Colorado Springs meant living under the iron rule of the Henderson family name. My mom, Patricia Henderson, ran our family's event planning business like a drill sergeant commanding her troops. Weddings, corporate functions, you name the mission, she executed it flawlessly. She'd built that operation from nothing, and it was her pride and glory. Every dinner briefing revolved around client intel, venue reconnaissance, or profit margins. My dad, Marcus Henderson, handled logistics, always following Mom's orders without question, his silence more powerful than any verbal report. Then there was my brother, Jake Henderson, 5 years my senior, the poster child who thrived in the business, absorbing Mom's approval like ammunition. Me. I was the soldier who'd gone off mission, the one who'd rather draft screenplays than crunch numbers. I'd always been drawn to storytelling. But to my family it was unauthorized leave from reality. "You need a real objective," Mom would bark, her eyes narrowing like she was sighting a target whenever I mentioned pitching a script. Jake would flash that superior smile, dropping lines like, "Keep dreaming, Maya, but don't expect to draw pay for it." Even Dad, who rarely spoke, would mutter tactical assessments like, "The business is what keeps us mission ready." Their words hit harder than enemy fire, but I maintained my position, sneaking off to a small studio in Colorado Springs last year to pitch my first screenplay. The mission failed spectacularly. The rejection felt like taking a direct hit, but their laughter around the dinner table cut deeper than shrapnel. "Told you," Jake said, refilling his wine like he was reloading. Mission failed. The only person who ever understood my objective was my grandmother, Elena Rodriguez. Grandma Elena wasn't like the rest of my unit. She'd sit with me on her back porch, her hands weathered but steady like an experienced marksman, teaching me how to craft dialogue that could pierce through any defense. "Your stories are your weapon, Maya," she'd say, her voice carrying the authority of a veteran. "Never surrender that mission." We'd spend hours conducting tactical breakdowns of classic films, analyzing every line, every strategic twist. She'd make notes in the margins of my scripts, her handwriting precise and encouraging. "Hold the line," she'd whisper, "no matter what incoming fire they send your way." Those moments were my lifeline, the only time I felt like I had solid intel from a trusted ally. Grandma Elena went Kia 2 years ago, and her loss left a hole in my unit that nothing could fill. But the pressure from Mom, Dad, and Jake never ceased. The business was everything, our legacy, they called it like it was some sacred mission. As a kid, I'd accompany them on operations, hauling equipment or setting up perimeters. But even then, I'd find cover to write scenes in my notebook. Mom caught me once during a wedding op, her face twisting with disapproval. "You're not here for honor, Maya. This is our future." I was 12 years old. By my 20s, I'd moved out to pursue my objectives in Colorado Springs' small film community. But after the studio rejection, I had to retreat home with my tail between my legs. The looks on their faces told me everything. I was a failed soldier in their eyes. Living back in that house was like being under constant surveillance. Every day Mom would push me to enlist in the family business. "You could be outstanding at this, Maya," she'd say, her tone carrying more command authority than encouragement. Jake would provide backup fire. "She'd compromise the whole operation, Mom. Stick to proven tactics." Dad would just drink his coffee, avoiding eye contact like I was a casualty he didn't want to acknowledge. I tried to maintain my writing mission, securing my room and typing through the night watches. But their voices penetrated every wall. Client briefings, operational planning, Jake's arrogant debriefs. I felt like I was operating behind enemy lines in my own home. My screenplays became classified intel I had to protect. Grandma Elena's words kept me in the fight. She'd left me her old typewriter, a reliable piece of equipment I treasured like a service weapon. I'd run my fingers over its keys, remembering her tactical wisdom. "A good story needs heart, Maya. Don't let anyone strip you of that gear." But heart wasn't enough armor when Mom's expectations came down like artillery fire. She'd breach my room, dropping event proposals on my desk like mission orders. "Read these. Learn something operational." I'd acknowledge with a nod, but my mind was deployed elsewhere, lost in scenes I'd never complete. Jake's psychological warfare intensified too. "Still writing your little movies?" he'd say, holding position in my doorframe. "Time to grow up, Maya." I started questioning my own intelligence reports. Maybe they were right. Maybe my dreams were just unauthorized fantasies. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Grandma Elena's face, heard her voice ordering me to maintain my position. She'd believed in my mission when no one else would provide support. That belief felt like my only remaining ammunition. The pressure only escalated when I was back on home base. Mom had one clear objective: get me enlisted in the family's event planning operation. "Maya, this is your chance to prove your mission ready," she said, shoving a stack of client proposals across the kitchen table like battle plans. Henderson Events was her empire, and she expected me to fall in line like a good soldier. I'd sit through briefings, taking notes on wedding operations and corporate campaigns, while my mind went AWOL to the screenplay I'd been refining for months. During night watch, I'd secure my bedroom, typing with the intensity of someone sending coded messages, crafting scenes about characters who fought for their independence. I'd send intelligence reports to small studios in Colorado Springs, hoping for a breakthrough. But every rejection email hit like enemy fire, and Mom's voice kept playing in my head like a broken radio transmission. "This isn't a game, Maya. You need to grow up." Jake was relentless in his psychological operations. He'd breach my room perimeter, scanning my laptop screen with tactical precision. "Still playing screenwriter?" he'd mock, his smirk sharp as a combat knife. "You're wasting everyone's resources." He dominated the business terrain, charming clients and soaking up Mom's praise like a soldier collecting medals. To him, my dreams were just noise interference disrupting the family's mission frequency. Dad maintained radio silence as usual, his eyes locked on his coffee mug during our hostile dinner briefings. But his silence transmitted loud and clear, full agreement with Mom's operational demands. "Just try it, Maya," he'd mumble once, barely raising his eyes from target. "The business is steady. Secure." That word felt like tactical restraints around my wrists. But I held my position, writing through the midnight watches, fine-tuning dialogue, visualizing my name on a movie poster like a mission-accomplished banner. I'd secured a position at a small studio in Colorado Springs last spring, assisting on a low-budget film operation. It wasn't commanding officer status, but it was my foothold, a successful infiltration. I'd spend days on set gathering intel, studying every tactical detail, modifying my own scripts during downtime. Then 3 months ago the studio lost their funding. The entire operation went dark and my position was terminated. I was hit hard. My financial reserves depleted, my confidence taking critical damage. With no other safe house available, I packed my gear and executed a tactical retreat home. The moment I crossed that threshold, Mom's expectations came at me like incoming mortars. "You tried your little hobby," she said, her voice cold as winter patrol. "Now it's time to join the real mission." She handed me a company laptop already loaded with event planning intel. I wanted to sound off, to tell her I wasn't surrendering my objective. But I needed shelter, so I accepted orders, swallowing my pride like bitter field rations. Jake didn't let me forget my failed deployment. "Back already?" he'd say, holding position against the counter. Guess your Hollywood dreams took casualties. His words burned like phosphorus, but I maintained my composure, refusing to show weakness. Every day became a firefight. Mom would drag me to client briefings, introducing me as the new operational planner while I maintained cover, my notebook full of script intelligence hidden in my tactical bag. I'd monitor Jake bragging about securing major corporate contracts, his ego expanding like a hot air balloon. Dad would provide silent support, never questioning, never defending my position. Back in my quarters, I'd channel my frustration into my scripts. I wrote about a female soldier breaking free from a controlling command structure, her courage building with each page. It felt like looking into tactical mirrors, but the pressure kept escalating. Mom started assigning me to back-to-back operations, eliminating any time for writing. "You're not carrying your weight," she'd snap when I missed a deadline, her eyes targeting me like laser sights. Jake would provide covering fire with comments like, "Maybe if you focused on the mission you'd actually contribute." I'd bite down hard, but inside I was launching flares. I'd conduct covert communications with a contact in the film industry, requesting intel on new opportunities, but the rejections kept coming like sustained enemy fire. My dreams felt like they were behind enemy lines, and the weight of their disapproval was breaking down my defenses. One night I sat at my desk staring at my latest script. I'd written a scene where the heroine confronted her command structure, her voice strong and unwavering. I wanted to be her, but I wasn't mission ready yet. I closed my laptop, my hands shaking like I had combat fatigue. Something had to break. That dinner was the final engagement. I sat across from Mom and Dad at the tactical table, Jake maintaining his smug position. The air was thick with tension, the sound of silverware our only communication until Mom broke radio silence. "Maya, we need to discuss your future deployment," she said, her voice sharp as a bayonet. I knew the incoming briefing. Another lecture about enlisting in the family's event planning operation. I'd heard this mission statement 100 times, but tonight I was done following orders. "I'm not abandoning my screenwriting mission," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surge in my system. "It's my chosen objective." Mom's eyes narrowed like she was acquiring target. "Passion doesn't secure resources, Maya. This family built something operational. You're sabotaging it for a fantasy." I clenched my fists, my heart rate spiking like during combat. "It's not fantasy. I have tactical skills, Mom. I've been submitting intelligence reports, getting battlefield assessment." Jake interrupted with hostile fire. "Assessment? You mean rejection notices? Face facts, Maya. You're not qualified for this mission." His words cut through my armor, but I returned fire. "At least I'm engaging the enemy, Jake. You just follow Mom's orders like a good little soldier." Dad, who'd been maintaining communications blackout, finally transmitted, "That's enough, Maya. You're compromising yourself." His voice was low frequency, but it hit like a direct strike. I turned to him with desperate intel request. "Dad, you've observed my operations. Why can't you provide support?" He broke eye contact, his jaw locked tight. Mom rose from her position, chair scraping like metal on concrete. "This is your base, Maya, but only if you're part of this unit. If you choose this nonsense over your family, you're dishonorably discharged." I went into tactical freeze. "What are you saying?" My voice showed stress fractures. Mom's expression went stone cold. "You're not part of this family anymore. Move out." Jake smirked, crossing his arms in victory formation. Dad just stared at his plate like casualty reports. I stood on trembling legs and secured my gear. "You can't mean that," I said. But Mom pointed toward the exit. "Now." I stumbled outside, the cold night air hitting me like a shock grenade as the lock engaged behind me. I hammered on that door, shouting, "Mom, Dad, open up." Radio silence. My key had been deactivated. They'd changed the security protocols. I established temporary quarters at a cheap motel down the street, my tactical mind spinning. How could they execute this betrayal? I attempted communications with Mom, then Dad, then Jake. No response. My text transmissions went unread. I sat on that uncomfortable bunk, scrolling through my financial app to assess my resources. That's when I discovered the breach. My savings account, the one I shared with Jake for emergency operations, was completely drained. $1,000 gone. I contacted the bank, my hands shaking like I had the combat jitters. The funds were withdrawn yesterday, the clerk reported. By Jake Henderson. My brother had stolen everything. I stared at my phone, my chest tight with the realization of total betrayal. Jake had always been ruthless, but this was a new level of warfare. I tried calling him again, leaving a voice transmission. Why, Jake? That was my operational fund. No response. I thought about Grandma Elena, how she'd order me to maintain the fight. But right now I felt like I'd lost everything. My base, my unit, my resources. I curled up on that bed, my laptop open to my latest script. The only equipment I had left. I wasn't surrendering, but I didn't know how to continue the mission. A week later, my phone buzzed with new intelligence. I was still holding position in that cheap Colorado Springs motel, my life packed into a duffel bag, my savings eliminated. The email was from Captain David Stone, the trust's legal officer, and the subject line stopped me cold. Priority, urgent. Elena Rodriguez Trust. My heart went tactical alert. Grandma Elena. I opened the transmission, scanning the intel. You are entitled to assets under a trust established by Elena Rodriguez. Contact immediately required. Assets? Trust? This was classified information I'd never received. My hands operated with combat shake as I dialed Captain Stone's secure line. Maya, he said, his voice carrying command authority. Your grandmother established a trust before she went Kia. It guarantees your right to maintain quarters in the family home and provides funding for your screenwriting operations. I nearly dropped my communication device. The family base where Mom and Dad had just executed a security lockout, plus financial backing for my writing mission. There's additional intel, Captain Stone added. Elena left sealed orders for you. I'll deploy them with the trust documentation. I confirmed the meeting for next day, my tactical mind processing rapidly. Why had this intelligence been classified from me? The documents arrived at my temporary quarters. A thick envelope containing legal protocols and sealed orders in Grandma Elena's familiar handwriting. I breached the seal, my eyes taking fire as I read her words. My dearest Maya, it began. I've always known your heart serves your stories. This trust is my way of providing cover from those who don't understand. Your mother, your father, your brother. They'll attempt to control your mission, but you are stronger than their doubt. The house is yours to claim and the funds are for your dreams. Don't let them compromise your objective. I secured the letter against my chest, tears executing a tactical retreat down my face. Grandma Elena had conducted advance reconnaissance. Mom's demands, Dad's radio silence, Jake's betrayal. She'd planned defensive measures to protect me. The trust specifications were massive tactical support. Elena had allocated sufficient resources to cover my operational expenses and support my screenwriting mission for years. There was a secured clause ensuring I could maintain quarters in the family home regardless of Mom or Dad's authority. Captain Stone briefed me over secure comms. Your parents received notification of the trust when Elena was Kia, but they've violated its terms. The lockout triggered automatic legal review. I gripped the letter with increased pressure. They knew. They had full intelligence and still executed the discharge. I reread Elena's words, her voice transmitting in my head. You are stronger than their doubts. She documented my childhood operations, how I'd sit on her lap drafting stories while she provided encouragement. Your mother wanted you to follow her tactical manual, she wrote. But I saw your fire. This trust is your liberation. Every line felt like backup arriving just when my position was overrun. But it also confirmed the betrayal. Mom, Dad, and Jake had kept this classified. Locked me out of my own base, stolen my resources. How could they execute such treachery? I contacted Captain Stone again, my voice steadier now. What are our next tactical moves? He outlined a meeting to enforce the trust's terms, warning me it could turn into a full engagement. Your family might launch a counterattack, he said. They've been managing the trust and there are irregularities. Irregularities? My gut executed combat maneuvers. Had they compromised the funds? I thought of Jake's smug expression, the missing 1,000 from my account. This wasn't just about the house or money. This was about control of my entire mission. I spent the night conducting detailed intelligence analysis, highlighting clauses, making tactical notes. Elena had planned for every contingency. Legal protection, funding protocols, operational timelines, even provisions for legal fees if the trust faced hostile action. I felt her strength in every word, her belief in my mission. But doubt began infiltrating too. Confronting Mom, Dad, and Jake would mean opening old battle wounds. Was I mission ready for this engagement? The conference room felt like a war zone. I held position across from Mom, Dad, and Jake, their faces showing defensive formations mixed with tactical uncertainty. Captain David Stone, the trust's legal officer, established command at the head of the table, his briefcase open with documents arranged in tactical formation. My hands maintained grip on Grandma Elena's letter, her words providing ammunition for my resolve. This was the decisive engagement, time to reclaim what belonged to me. Captain Stone cleared his throat, his voice maintaining professional authority. We're here to address the Elena Rodriguez Trust and its mismanagement. Mom's eyes went to targeting mode. Mismanagement? That's a false accusation. Jake leaned back, arms crossed in defensive posture, his smirk barely concealing his tactical nervousness. Dad maintained his usual communications blackout, staring at the table. Captain Stone held his ground. The trust was established to ensure Maya's right to the family home and funds for her screenwriting career, he said, deploying a document forward. Yet $150,000 was withdrawn without Maya's authorization and used to upgrade Henderson Events Company. Jake launched a counteroffensive. That's disinformation. The company needed those resources, but his voice executed tactical retreat. I locked targeting systems with him, my anger going to condition red. You took my operational funds too, Jake. $1,000 eliminated. Now this. He shifted position uncomfortably, maintaining radio silence. Captain Stone continued deploying bank records. These transactions trace back to Patricia and Jake Henderson, approved by Marcus Henderson. The trust explicitly prohibits personal use of its assets. Mom's face went to threat level red. We built that company from nothing. Maya doesn't deserve operational support if she's not contributing to the mission. Her words launched like incoming fire, but I was done taking casualties from them. Contributing. I snapped back with full authority. You executed a security lockout on my own home, Mom. Grandma Elena wanted me to have base access. Dad finally broke communications silence, his voice low frequency. We thought we were executing what's best for the unit. I shook my head with decisive authority. Negative, Dad. You executed what's best for your objectives. Captain Stone deployed more evidence. Emails, financial statements, proof of the family's spending on new office equipment and marketing for the company. Every page was confirmation of betrayal, intelligence that they'd known about the trust and violated its terms. This is a clear breach of protocol, Captain Stone said. Maya is entitled to the house and the remaining funds, plus damages for the misappropriated amount. Jake slammed his hand on the tactical table. You're not taking anything, Maya. You're a failed soldier who will waste it on your worthless scripts. His outburst only reinforced my tactical resolve. I stood, my voice carrying command authority. I'm done with this unit. I want the apartment in Colorado Springs as the trust authorizes. I'll take the funds Grandma Elena left for my writing, and we're going no contact. Mom's defensive systems failed. You can't just abandon your unit. But I held her gaze with unwavering focus. You abandoned me first when you secured that door. Captain Stone nodded, making tactical notes. Maya's proposal aligns with the trust's operational parameters. The apartment's deed can be transferred and the funds will be released to her account. He turned to Mom, Dad, and Jake. You'll also face a financial audit for the $150,000. Repayment may be required. Jake's smirk went dark and Mom's face lost all color. Dad just looked like a casualty of war, his hands folded in defeat. I felt a mixture of tactical victory and emotional pain. Grandma Elena's trust was my lifeline, but facing my family like this hit harder than expected combat stress. You could have provided support, I said, my voice showing stress fractures. Instead, you stole from me. Mom tried to interrupt, but I raised my hand with stop signal authority. Negative. I'm done receiving your transmissions. I'm taking what's mine and moving out. Captain Stone handed me a pen to sign the preliminary agreement, his expression calm but approving. As I signed, I thought of Grandma Elena's words. You are stronger than their doubts. She'd known they'd try to break my resolve, but she'd given me the tactical equipment to fight back. The apartment would be my new base of operations, a place to write without their hostile interference. The funds would let me pitch my scripts, maybe even produce a short film. I looked at Mom, Dad, and Jake one final time. Their silence transmitted everything. They'd lost operational control. Walking out of that room, I felt lighter, but the weight of losing my unit lingered. I didn't want their apologies or excuses. I wanted freedom. 2 weeks later, the papers were signed. Captain Stone called to confirm the Elena Rodriguez Trust had finalized the transfer of a Colorado Springs apartment to my name. Mom, Dad, and Jake had no choice but to comply. Backed into tactical corners by the legal weight of Grandma Elena's wishes, their signatures on the agreement felt like surrender, but I knew they'd fought until the last engagement. Captain Stone's voice was steady over secure comms. The trust's funds covered the apartment purchase, and the remaining balance is yours for your screenwriting operations. The family's control over the trust is terminated. I stood in the empty apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, keys in my hand. It was a small one-bedroom unit. Nothing elaborate, but it was mine. No more temporary quarters, no more locked doors. I set my laptop on the kitchen counter, imagining midnight writing operations without Mom's hostile briefings or Jake's psychological warfare. But the victory was bittersweet. I'd won, but at the cost of my family unit. Henderson Events was taking heavy casualties from the fallout. Captain Stone had warned them about the audit for the $150,000 they'd siphoned from the trust. News spread fast in Colorado Springs. Clients executed tactical withdrawal, wary of the scandal. A local paper ran intelligence about the lawsuit, hinting at financial misconduct. I didn't read past the headline. Didn't need additional intel. The company's reputation was taking sustained damage, and with it Mom's pride and Jake's arrogance. Dad had always stayed out of combat, probably burying himself in paperwork to avoid the mess. I blocked their communications that same week. Mom tried texting once, a brief message about resolving the situation. I deleted it without response. Jake left a voice transmission, his tone dripping with resentment. "You think you're better than us, Maya? Good luck operating solo." I erased it, my hands steady as a sniper's. Dad didn't attempt contact at all. That hurt the most, his silence louder than any argument. I didn't want their apologies or their anger. Grandma Elena had given me an extraction route and I was taking it. Settling into the apartment took time. I acquired a second-hand desk, basic lighting, and a few plants to make the place feel operational. Every morning I'd sit by the window drinking coffee, typing scenes for a new script about a woman rebuilding her life after betrayal, her strength growing with every tactical move. The words flowed easier now, unburdened by the weight of family expectations. I sent pitches to small studios, my confidence returning to operational status. A producer in Bozeman sent intel expressing interest in a short film concept. It wasn't Hollywood, but it was a successful mission start. Sometimes I'd find myself staring at Grandma Elena's letter, secured in a drawer for safekeeping. Her words were my anchor. "You are stronger than their doubts." I'd trace the ink, remembering her warm smile, her belief in my mission. She'd known Mom would try to mold me, that Jake would tear me down, that Dad would stand by and do nothing. She'd built this safety net and I was finally free to deploy it. But freedom came with shadows. Late at night, when the apartment was quiet, I'd feel the ache of what I'd lost. Not the family they'd become, but the one I'd hoped for. The one where Mom might have cheered for my scripts, where Dad might have spoken up, where Jake might have been a brother instead of a rival. I pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on future operations. The trust's funds gave me breathing room to write, to chase my dreams without scraping by on minimal resources. I wasn't rich, but I had sufficient operational support. A month in, I got a call from Captain Stone. The audit was moving forward and the family faced heavy financial penalties. Henderson Events might not survive. I thanked him, my voice maintaining operational calm. Their downfall wasn't my objective, but it was their consequence. I terminated the call, opened my laptop and started typing. The story wasn't complete, not mine, not the one on my screen. But for the first time I knew I'd write my own ending. Months passed and my operational world grew brighter. The Colorado Springs apartment had become my command center, its walls lined with tactical notes for my latest script. I'd been deploying everything into my writing, and it paid off when I received intelligence from the Colorado Springs Film Collective. My script, a drama about a female soldier breaking free from her past, had been selected for their talent development program. I stared at the screen, my heart rate spiking like during pre-mission briefing. This was real engagement. A chance to work with professional operators, refine my tactical skills, and maybe see my story deployed on screen. The program launched at a local theater where I met Marcus Chin, a young director with sharp tactical instincts for character development, and Sarah Kim, a producer with advanced reconnaissance skills for spotting potential. "Your script has operational heart," Marcus told me over coffee after our first tactical workshop. "It's raw, but it's authentic." Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with tactical awareness. "We need more voices like yours, Maya. Maintain forward momentum." Their words felt like backup arriving just when I needed support, pulling me into a unit that valued my operational contributions. We started conducting regular briefings, exchanging tactical ideas, critiquing drafts, and planning operational projects. A few weeks later, the program's commanding officer called me in. "Maya, we're deploying you to pitch your script to a panel of producers at the Northwest Film Forum," she said. My stomach executed tactical maneuvers. A pitch to real producers. This was frontline engagement. I spent days preparing, rehearsing in front of my bathroom mirror, channeling Grandma Elena's belief in my mission. "You are enough," her letter reminded me, still secured in a frame on my desk. The day of the pitch, I held position in a small conference room in Denver, my voice steady as I shared my operational story. The producers leaned forward, asking tactical questions, taking strategic notes. One of them, a woman with sharp glasses, smiled. "This could be something special," she said. "Let's discuss next tactical steps." I walked out feeling like I could execute a perfect airborne landing. Back in Colorado Springs, Marcus and Sarah became my tactical anchors. Marcus would drag me to late-night diners, sketching shot lists on napkins and debating character arcs like battle strategies. Sarah helped me navigate the operational side, connecting me with local filmmakers and teaching me how to budget a short film like planning a military operation. We'd spend weekends in my apartment conducting brainstorming sessions over takeout, laughing until our sides hurt from the tactical stress relief. They weren't just colleagues. They were my chosen unit, the kind I'd never had with Mom, Dad, or Jake. With them, I didn't have to prove my operational readiness. They saw me, not my failed missions. Sometimes I'd catch myself conducting reconnaissance on my old family. A news article mentioned Henderson Events Company losing another major client, their reputation still taking damage from the lawsuit. I felt a tactical pang, wondering if Mom ever regretted her hostile words, or if Dad wished he'd provided support. Jake's social media had gone dark, his usual arrogance replaced by communications blackout. But I didn't attempt contact. I'd made my tactical choice and they'd made theirs. Freedom meant letting go, and I was learning to embrace the mission. The talent development program pushed me to advance my skills. I rewrote my script, tightening dialogue, deepening characters, like improving tactical equipment. Marcus offered to direct a short version, and Sarah secured a small grant for funding, like acquiring operational resources. We shot in Colorado Springs using local actors and locations by the river. Watching my words come to life on set, I felt a surge of mission pride. This was what I'd fought for. A chance to tell stories that mattered, stories that could provide tactical inspiration to others. The short film got accepted to a regional festival, and the three of us celebrated with cheap wine in my apartment, toasting to new operational beginnings. Through it all, I kept returning to Grandma Elena's tactical lesson. My value didn't come from others' approval. It came from within, from the stories I told, the operations I conducted, the people I chose to keep in my unit. Marcus and Sarah reminded me of that every day, their support providing a steady tactical foundation. I wasn't executing a retreat from my past anymore. I was building something new. Standing on my apartment balcony, watching the sunset over the Rocky Mountain foothills, I felt operationally complete. My story wasn't finished, but for the first time, I knew I was writing it according to my own tactical manual.